Recently, a business owner approached me with a $10 million a year sales team and was asking me what I would do in their situation to scale to 20, 30, 40 million or more. And they were making a big mistake I see a lot of sales teams out there use. So in this video, I'm going to go over what that biggest mistake was and also the other advice I gave them to implement with their team to scale it and how you can use those same lessons with your team. So if you see my screen right now, here's really a basic overview of what this company's key metrics were for their sales team, okay? So they were doing about 1,300 sales a month. They had 150 reps, 10% close rate, $800 AOV. They had a lot of part-timers and some full-timers on their sales team. They had no outbound team. So really, this isn't like the full data points of their organization and their sales team, of course, but these are the data points that really outline the main problems. Now, if you take 150 units, about 1,300 units a month divided by 150 reps, I believe is about 8.6 units per month per rep. And as you're going to see, this metric is a big issue right here. So the big fundamental mistake that I alluded to earlier that the sales team was having was essentially their their income to complexity ratio. So here's the easiest way to really explain this. Would you rather have 4 reps, in a hypothetical example, 4 reps at 25 units a month per rep a piece, so as a total of 100 units a rep, at a 10K product doing $1 million a month? So easy way to say it. Would you rather have 4 reps to do $1 million a month? Or would you rather have 10 reps to do $1 million a month, right? Would you rather have 4 reps doing 25 units a piece at 10K or 10 reps doing 10 units a piece at 10K? Hey, it's the same amount of money, right? And if you're paying these guys, let's say 10% commission, it's the same amount of overhead. So which would you rather have? Or does it even matter? This is just like, hey, like whatever gets me there, I don't care. Well, as you probably could imagine, you would much rather have this one right here. Okay, now why is that? So the problems with the 10 rep example, okay, and the problems with more complexity than is necessary is that you have, number one, lower recruiting power. So why would you have lower recruiting power? Well, here's the deal. In this example, these 4 reps that are selling, approximately about 250 grand cash collected a month, if they're commissioned, they're going to make way more money than these reps, okay? And in fact, they're going to make about what? It's more than 100% more. 2.5x, basically, right? So they're going to make substantially more on the same comp structure as these reps. So if you go out to the recruiting marketplace and you're trying to recruit new reps for your company, which company do you think they want to work for? Obviously, they want to work for the one where they can make 2.5 times more, okay? So then on top of that, you're going to get higher churn with this example. Why are you going to get higher churn? Well, because the reps are making less money. And more often than not, a lot of times, the efficiency in these organizations isn't very good. So in other words, the reason the unit count per rep is very low is because the sales ops or the show-up rates or the live call counts aren't very good. The marketing's not very good. So the reps have a lot of time to sit on their hands and do nothing. And eventually they're not making money, they get bored, they leave, right? Whereas with this one, you're going to have much lower churn because they're making more money, they're busy, you have less reps to focus on, so they get more attention from the managers, more growth, et cetera, okay? The next problem with a bigger sales team to do the same amount of revenue, all right, is you have more management overhead. So in general, you need about 1 manager for every 8 to 12 reps, okay? And that just goes for almost all teams, but in sales, it's true. About 1 manager for every 8 to 12 reps. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it's a pretty good general rule of thumb. Well, like this, in this example, you could still pull these off really with 1 manager, but let's say you 10x'd both these companies. Now you're talking substantially more, almost double the amount of management overhead for the same amount of revenue. So that's double the amount you're digging into your margin for the same amount of revenue because you're going to need twice as many managers and they're getting overrides or however you're comping them of that, right? So you're going to have way more managers, all right? The other thing is too, if you ask me, I want the highest revenue per employee possible. So if I have less people, it's just less headaches, right? It's less one-on-ones you have to do. It's less people you have to manage with your payroll, less commission trackers you have to keep track of. And that's also going to mean less operations and less finance staff and all of that stuff to deal with it. So obviously, you want the least amount of people in your organization to do the most amount of revenue. That doesn't mean at certain points you can kind of blitz scale and bring on a lot of folks and kind of naturally build a little bloat just because that's the season you're in. That could be fine. But if given the choice, you're always going to want this example up here for these reasons that I gave. So what did I tell this business? So this is a core problem this business owner had, right? So what did I actually tell them to do to fix it, okay? So the first thing I advised this business owner was really to do a management restructure. So what I mean by that is when this company was first asking me for advice, they had no clear like top-down leadership or management. It was just kind of like blitz scale. There was all these reps. It just very, very inefficient stuff all over the place. So I wrote out a fictitious example of what this should look like using an 100-person team. I know that team was 150, but 100 was just easier to do. And so what you have here is you have a director at the top, and then you have these are the managers, and then these are the reps, okay? So what's really key here is this director, their primary skill set, and this person obviously has to be a superstar, their primary skill set is obviously they have to be great at sales, okay? But on the split side, they need to also really be good at the systems and then also recruiting, hiring, training, and managing the 1 to 10 people. And so what I mean by that is what this person is going to make them such a superstar and why it is a pretty hard hire is essentially what you're looking for is you're finding this one person who can recruit, hire, train, and manage these sort of entrepreneurial, kind of like almost like you think of them as mini CEOs who have their own profit division. And then you just find that one person and then they go hire the next 10 sales reps and sort of manage their business under the business, right? Now, this person needs to be strategic, systems, scripts, but also very good at sales and also very good at recruiting and harboring entrepreneurial talent. That's why it's a little bit of a unicorn hire, but you only need one. These folks, on the other hand, they just really need to be good at 2 skills, which is number one, they need to be good at sales and obviously the sales training and sales technique and all that stuff. And then they need to be good at finding great sales talent and just building a team, right? That's really it. They don't have to necessarily be a strategic, high-level, systems processes-oriented as this individual. Because this individual is also going to be the person coordinating with marketing, with sales ops, and really kind of being the glue and the highest executive on the sales side of the entire organization. This person can kind of be, they have to be somebody who's not just a lone wolf sales rep. They got to be somebody who's pouring into their sales team. They're a great sales coach, but that's really what they are. They don't have to necessarily be systems brain. They're not going to be redoing the script or redoing the CRM or anything like that, okay? So then from here, so obviously as you can see here, every single one of these people you would have, and if this team got much bigger, you'd have to make kind of co-directors or so on and so forth. But as I drew it out here, this person has, I believe this is 8 or 10 direct reports, right? So they have their team. They're kind of still like managing a sales team. They're managing a team. But, obviously it's at a higher point of leverage because every single person they're managing, they're hiring they're managing the one person that can do the 10. And then here, these people would would manage the 10 people. I don't know how many 10 is, but you can imagine each of these people will be assigned a group of 10. Okay. Just imagine I'm circling 10 and this is all proportional. So the reason this is so important to go back to our original problem, which was the improper efficiency of the overall sales team, is obviously you have the 1 to 10 method here, but then the other thing that you have here is you have proper rep to management ratio, right? So generally, again, for every 8 to 12 reps that you have, you don't need necessarily a whole new sales director or whole new division, but you do need a coach to be able to pour in to those people, okay? So the next big thing that I mentioned with this business owner was eliminating the part-timers, okay? So this one's very, very simple, but the issue with part-timers is number one, if you're all in on the opportunity, you're totally bought into the mission, vision, values of the company, the culture, and you're all in on the opportunity. This is your way to make income. You have to make this work. And you're just focused day in and day out on one thing and one thing only, which is getting better at your sales calls. You're obviously going to do better, right? I mean, it's just focus, right? So the lack of focus for the reps when they're doing part-time, they almost always get worse results. Sure, there's exceptions of certain reps that are just complete savages and they're just kind of doing this on the side as they're doing their own business. But still, I don't even like that. For us, any rep that we have has to be full-time. There's no part-time bullcrap or anything like that. The other issue with part-time reps is it takes 100% of management bandwidth for only 50% of the output. So like if I have a team of 6 and 2 of the guys are part-time, a lot of times with those part-timers, I still have to spend as much time with them. So I'm spending equal amount of units per my time with a rep who's only going to produce at most 50% of the output because they're part-time. So you see how like as when you're hiring like 1 or 2 sales reps, you have limited direct reports, you don't feel that as much. But in a bigger organization, it creates so much inefficiency, which as we covered earlier, was coming up in this company's metrics. It also just brings down the culture. It doesn't make it as much of a high-performance culture if you have these people who are half in, half out, they're part-time. And it creates more unnecessary complexity. So that's pretty self-explanatory. The next thing we dove into was the AOV. So this company had products as high as 5K. Now, in this industry, I know that they can sell really as high as 10K. I would say probably in this industry, I'm not going to say what it is just for the anonymity of this person, but it was, 58 to 6,800 is really the gold standard of where I like to see companies at in this industry. Their AOV was $850. Now they had products as high as 5K, but their AOV is only $850. So what's going on with that? Well, the main thing is that they had too many packages. So they had like a $500 option, a $1,500 option, a $3,500 option, a 5K option. Okay. So when you have too many packages, here's the big thing that you have to realize. Sales reps, they don't sell the thing that makes them the most money or the thing that therefore makes you the most money because they're commission, based sales reps. They don't sell the thing that makes you or them the most money. What they do is they sell the easiest thing there is to sell because it's very easy just from a status standpoint to be able to come away from the deal and say, well, they didn't have money, but I did take what they had and gave them, I was able to process and get a unit. I took what they had, but, they couldn't have done the 5K. And the thing with reps is the reason this happens is because sales is a grind and our brains and just our bodies and who we are as humans, we're always trying to naturally conserve energy. So what happens a lot of times on these calls is, and this is why I don't like giving front-end reps. Back-end reps is different, but front-end reps, multiple packages, is unless the packages are very distinctly different and also both very premium, what happens when they have multiple packages is you get to the end, the prospect gives some resistance, a financial objection, and instead of calling it out, working through the objection, and doing the hard work to get the premium sale, which is with the offer that the prospect probably should be in, what they do is they just take the easy road out and essentially just, I'll just downsell them. Oh, I'll just give them a crazy-ass payment plan. So what happens when, that's why this phenomena happens is really just the energy conservation of the reps. And so in my companies and all the companies I consult, I really recommend that if you're really just to have one package, okay? But if you're going to have two, make them very far apart. Like for instance, in this example, 5K and 3,500, why even have the two things that are that close? If somebody could do 3,500, they could do 5K. Like, what are you even doing? And it just gives the reps such an easy way to, again, sell the easiest thing there is to sell, because in that way they don't have to handle objections, they don't have to get exhausted, and they're just conserving their energy. If you do have multiple products on the front end, a great example is if like you have a 10K product and let's say a 50K product, or you have a 10K product and maybe it's just 30K or even like 25K. They're both premium and they're both different enough to where then usually the reps will make a little bit better judgment because either way they're going to get resistance with either one. But where you really see a lot of trouble is if you have a 10K product and a 1K product. I know this is terrible handwriting. 10K and 1K, you'll get a lot of people who just really needed pushed into this. They needed a more aggressive payment plan, some encouragement, something to coax their fear a little bit. But the rep takes the easy way out and does the 1K and then comes to you and they're like, I got the 1K. And I have a different video on this. I'll post it on the channel. But almost always, this example, even if you think it works in a perfect world, it never does. You almost always, always, always lose money. And it's because of this, right? So if we can get, and I just really hit the first packages thing. But number one, if we consolidate the packages, we'll likely increase the AOV. A lot of times, again, when I see companies who are doing this, for instance, I'll have them remove their 1K product and automatically their revenue goes up. We don't even change anything else. We just remove the option for the downsell, and then what do you know? They get more 10Ks, okay? So removing the packages, AOV is automatically going to go up. Then also, part of the reason this is happening as well is just poor training, too much inefficiency. There's no QCs on these downsells. So what I mean by that is if you do have a downsell, you need the managers QCing to make sure the person who was downsold, that was a proper downsell. They weren't qualified for something higher that they should have been put into. Well, with this company, obviously, as we already went over, there was no proper management going on, so that didn't happen. Okay? So the fourth thing is the MDR process. So in this company, this is how their system actually worked. They had marketing and they were creating all buyers leads, right? And so this is how they were able to feed so many reps with such an inefficient sales engine, is because their front end in terms of their marketing and their buyer production was so phenomenal, okay? So they had marketing that was going to the buyers leads, and then basically what they would do is use email and SMS to get them to book a call and ultimately show up, right? So very, very simple. Somebody sees marketing, they become a buyer lead, email and SMS drives them to the call. What's really interesting though is they had a 90% drop off from buyer to not even show, but to book a call. So 90% of people were becoming buyers and not even booking a call. So the most obvious thing to do here, if you watch my channel, you probably know, is to add an MDR process, keep erasing stuff, to add an MDR process, and then having basically setters, right? Setters, MDR is the same thing. MDR is a marketing development rep. So that's traditionally in the high ticket space what setters are. They go after people who are leads generated by marketing, be it buyers or opt-ins, et cetera, and set them for appointments because it's very different from SDRs. So we need an MDR to essentially call this lead, all right, book a triage or do a triage on the spot. Ideally, they answer the phone, you do the triage on the spot, and then get them to show up. So as a result, what would I expect from something like this? I would say equal to up to about 25% of buyer to set. So I would say you could probably get this number, because it's buyers, as high as 25%, because you could really approach it with such a customer service frame. Like imagine if somebody purchases something, all I got to do as a setter is send them a text and say, hey, have some questions about your purchase. Just want to make sure you received everything okay and you got access to all the bonuses. I'm just making some stuff up. It's very easy to get buyers to respond. So yes, you could probably get up to about 25% buyer to set. Even if you got an extra 10%, that would double this lead flow of this business, right? I've seen with buyer falls up to 25%, which is a huge opportunity. So if you add 25%, at a 25% lift to the current appointment volume, you get about 32.5%. That would be a 3x in the appointments with 0 ads. Now, how would I actually build that outbound team? Well, when you have such a big organization, you already have 150 reps. Again, you got to find the one person to hire the 10. In this example, you have to find essentially the first hire to build this outbound department would be this person, okay? Because you need this person to then hire these 10 people to then hire this 10 people, right? That's as a CEO or a founder, how you would build that department without completely losing your mind, okay? So that's why you still got to use the 1 to 10 process. So as we finish out here, if you look at the combined potential of all of this stuff, right? If you double the AOV, you're going to double the revenue. Pretty obvious, right? If you double the efficiency, like if you can take it from 8 reps per closer per month, which is where it was, and just add in some of the things I talked about so far to get into 15 or 16 reps, you're also going to double your revenue, which is not just doubling your revenue, you're going to get a much bigger increase in profit. So instead of a double in profit, you might get a 2.5x in profit, because the only thing you're paying, there's no extra marketing spend. There's probably not that much overhead. And so you're actually going to get a much bigger trickle down in terms of profit. And then keep in mind, because we're achieving this through increasing the sales efficiency, we're actually probably going to have less overhead in the department and less unnecessary expenses, and et cetera. Okay. Then if we 3x the appointments, I would say that's probably a 20 to 25% increase in profit immediately. And then obviously a potential for a 3x revenue down the road. That's not going to happen overnight, but obviously it's going to give you 3 times the appointments. If everything stays constant, that's 3 times the revenue. Why are you going to get a 20 to 25% increase in profit immediately? Because you can trim back the ad campaigns that are the lowest ROAS of the entire whole, which will probably help you eke out more profit and have less ad spend that you're allocating out there, right? So the fact that you won't need to be as reliant on ads will, in fact, in this type of funnel, reduce the ad expenses. So that's all for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed.